Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Rice Report. I'd like to thank you for once again tuning in to my office, your office here in Rockville, where I give you updates on some of the happenings that have happened before the Montgomery County Council and some of the upcoming plans I have for potential bills that I think might be important to you. I wanted to first talk to you about our budget. This was a very difficult time for us as we had a $300 million shortfall in our $4.5 billion budget. And with our school system that represented over half, approximately $2.6 billion, it became very apparent to us that there were going to be deep cuts that would affect a lot of the services that were important to many of you. And while it was important for us to retain our #1 school system and protect it from some of the draconian cuts that were proposed, it was also important to understand that we had to share some of that pain with the school system that was also shared with a number of our departments. And I briefly wanted to touch on some of the accomplishments that we were able to achieve out of this budget while still maintaining the budget sustainability that I had talked about on the campaign trail. With our school system, we ended up still funding $31 million over the previous year's appropriation. And while that's not a lot, and I understand the school system did grow, it does represent an increase, and also understanding that any kind of a significant decrease would have adversely affected the classroom. That's something that we did not want to do. And while we understand that these cuts mean that we won't be able to do all the things that our great school system typically does every year, we also understand in working with our school board members that we think we can get achievable cost savings that, again, won't negatively impact the instruction in the classroom and the impact on our children. Our Health and Human Services Department took a significant cut once again this year, and I serve on the Health and Human Services Committee. And so it was extremely important for me to make sure that we made measured cuts, cuts that we knew while would still impact the services that we provide, not negatively affect those that could not fend for themselves and our most vulnerable residents here in Montgomery County. And I'm very happy to report that we supported Montgomery Cares, which is a program that extends health care to those that can't afford it and don't have the jobs that provide it. I want to talk about our libraries because out of all of the concerns that all of my constituents raised over this budget cycle, libraries was the #1 concern that was raised by many of the people who called or wrote in or emailed into the office. And we were able to restore library funding, and while it wasn't full library funding, it certainly allowed for us to make sure that some of the proposed library closures didn't happen, and also make sure that we're bringing materials back on the shelves. You know, it's one thing to have a library with reduced hours, but it's another to walk in to a library with empty shelves, and we thought that was too much. Another, and the last one that I want to talk about today is Montgomery College, our jewel, rated as the #1 community college in the nation. And Montgomery College has served as a great stepping stone for those that either wanted to hone their skills in a 2-year university before going on to try and get a 4-year bachelor's degree, but also Montgomery College serves as a way for those who want to retool themselves in a down economy, which we've seen that's extremely important when it comes to a person that might decide they want to change careers. And so it was important to the council to make sure that we made these restructuring changes to the Montgomery College budget and to give them additional funds so that they might be able to continue their mission that we thought was so vitally important to the goals of Montgomery County. So again, to wrap up our budget, I don't think this is a budget that anybody was happy to pass. But I think that we all understood, as all 9 council members, that this was a budget that needed to be passed. And so I think that we've, again, put ourselves on the path of fiscal sustainability and that we've made structural changes to our budget that will help us in the out years. And that's significant because I don't think that that's something that the council has really been able to say that they've done before. I want to talk to you about Clarksburg, and there's been a lot of attention on Clarksburg. You know that's been listed as my #1 priority because of all of the challenges that Clarksburg faced when I first arrived here on the council. And I can tell you right now that I'm happy to report that the council has just passed a bill that allows for the grocery store and retail to come to Clarksburg. It's official, folks. There will be retail coming to Clarksburg, and Clarksburg is now on the map. We are back on track, and I think that you will see things start to happen rather quickly in that area. And I'm truly excited, not only in the sense that we were able to accomplish this together, but also in the sense that this shows citizenry in action. When I first held that town hall meeting in Clarksburg and folks told me the things that were important to them, that was one of the #1 priorities. And I'm happy to say that we as the council have delivered on that priority. There was also a lot of questions and concerns about Stringtown Road and the challenges that were faced there. There were multiple accidents, and just recently I talked to another person whose wife was involved in a near fatal collision, and she happened to be pregnant at the time. Those are the kinds of things that ring true when it comes to making sure that we make expedient changes when it comes to public safety. And I'm happy to report that at the end of July of 2011, all of the road improvements that were projected to be done for Stringtown Road will be completed. We put Stringtown Road on the fast track because we understood the safety implications. And again, I'm happy to say that all 9 council members have been supportive in that effort to make sure that that happens. I want to talk to you about future development for Clarksburg, because now that we've gotten the grocery store underway and we've done some road improvements that were extremely important, what happens next? And I just recently held a town hall meeting where we talked about just that. Where we talked about the future development of those properties that have reached stage 4 and are in the 10 Mile Creek area. Where we also talked about the expansion of 27 or bringing M83 into Clarksburg. Where we also talked about what it meant with the Clarksburg Infrastructure Working Group and their recommendations with 2 bills that I've co-sponsored along with Nancy Florine that talk about not only impact taxes and allowing developers to transfer impact taxes that will help developers to be able to invest more money in Clarksburg, but also about a development special district tax for the areas of Clarksburg Village and Aurora Hills. And while there was much sentiment expressed about some of the concerns over paying these additional taxes on top of the mortgages and the HOA fees that they currently pay, but the key is this, is that the developers have already said that they intend to impose their own district tax. And there's no guarantees as to what that infrastructure that's delivered as a part of those taxes might be. And so that's why I strongly feel as though the council needs to be a part of this process so that we can help fight for the residents to make sure that your tax dollars that come through this special district tax are well spent. Last but not least, I have not forgotten about my residents in the historic district in Clarksburg. And I'm happy to report that a fire station that's coming to Clarksburg will also be, I think, the catalyst in bringing water and sewer to the historic districts of Clarksburg. And while I can't comment on every single item that's there regarding how we intend to achieve this, I can tell you right now that the process is moving forward, and I'm very excited to see that there's a potential solution to this long-standing problem and relief for those residents that thought that they would never get access to water and sewer. I want to talk to you about disability retirement reform, because I think it's extremely important for folks to understand that this council is not anti-collective bargaining. There was a decision that needed to be made because we've gone back to the collective bargaining table for years now and never been able to come to a solution. And I think that it's important for the council to make sure that we have a fiscally responsible solution that's out there as a backdrop. This is in no means to say that the county executive should not bargain this issue. I feel as though the police proposal that has been proposed and put before the council seems reasonable. And I understand a 3-tier system, and I understand the merits of that and think that it makes sense. But that is not the council's role. That is the county executive's role. And the county executive, we hope, will in good faith bargain this issue with the Fraternal Order of Police. And I will be working with the Fraternal Order of Police as well as conversing with the county executive and expressing the concerns and views of myself, and I'm sure that other council members will do the same, to make sure that this issue is still bargained. I think that that is our best solution. However, We need to make sure that we have something in place that allows us to protect ourselves from a fiscally accountable perspective, but then also from a budget sustainable perspective and also from a fairness perspective. This is something that our firefighters have dealt with. They have the same proposed disability retirement program that is being proposed for our other members now. And so an equity stake certainly falls into this decision as well. I also wanted to just briefly touch on a few things that I'm going to be working on this summer. As many of you know, I fought to save our school resource officers in our schools, and while we don't have the 9 that we used to have, we do still currently have 6. And I am working with members of our council staff as well as staff for the Montgomery County Public School System and our police officers to make sure that we come up with a revamped program that will hopefully allow for school resource officers to return to all of our schools and potentially expand it to our middle schools as well. I'll be working on a number of items, including budget reforms for next year, understanding that our fiscal budget still might not be where we need it to be. I'll be working with our members of the Maryland Association of Counties over the summer about a number of initiatives on the state level that will help strengthen our counties and make sure that we find ourselves in a better place, making sure that we have powers that allow for us to make the changes that are necessary when it comes to restructuring our budget and creating budget reforms. And we'll also be working with them on the maintenance of effort bill and against the pension shifts that have been proposed. All of these things are extremely important to Montgomery County, and I look forward to, again, working with you here in my office, your office in Rockville. Only together are we going to be able to solve all of the problems that confront us. And I encourage you to keep contacting me to let me know what's important to you. I want to thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Rice Report. Have a great day.